So the thing about inventions is we don't know what inventions will happen. We don't know what someone will invent and just create from nothing, and it will change our lives immensely. And we just don't know what that might be. But I know that there are people working on something right now that at some point soon will be a big invention and it will change our lives. And it's happening constantly, these new inventions. We've got CDs, the internet, the computer, and telephone, all these different inventions which change our lives drastically. So, what I'm thinking now is that we don't know what these inventions will be, and yet we know it will happen. And I'm trying to imagine how people in even 10 years, how they would look at my life now, here, in this time. What would they think? Would they think that we were deprived because we didn't have such and such invention? I know, for example, that 20 years ago, I think 20 years ago, they would have had no CDs, they would have had no internet, they wouldn't have electric cars. Basically, there's a million and one things that simply wouldn't have been around 10 or 20 years ago. And yet we take them for granted now and couldn't really imagine life without them. So I'm wondering how people, let's say 20 years from now, when they look back on me now, what would they think? In what ways would I be deprived compared to how they have it in 20 years' time? So I'm trying to imagine the things that would change that would make people in 20 years think that I'm living a really difficult, deprived life. And then, of course, I'm thinking about 100 years' time. In 100 years, life will be so different. They would look back on me now, living my life, and think I'm deprived and feel sorry for me. So I'm trying to imagine what would be invented that would make them think that I'm living a deprived life now. The same way I look back on 100 years in the past and think that they had very little in their lives. So it's interesting to do that and wonder what might come in future.